Hello, everybody. It's Wild Man Z here for part 8 of my library tour 2022. I hope for a few people that have joined me so far that you're enjoying it, and I'm trying to work on my skills on making these videos. I know I'm very amateurish, but I'm sort of new to doing this. Got some books. Some of them I've read, some I haven't. Let's start out with some of the ones that I've read. This is a really cool book. This is If You Write Sci-Fi. This book, The Craft of Writing Science Fiction That Sells by Ben Bova, is really good. Ben Bova has written numerous books in sci-fi. I consider him a hard sci-fi writer. He tries to keep like sort of real in terms of imaginable sort of scenarios in sci-fi. And he was a long-time editor or editor-in-chief of Analog, I believe. And this is not, just gives you good tips on pacing, on how to frame a story, how to make an effective protagonist and an effective antagonist. He doesn't like the word villain, and so forth. And he uses a lot of his own work, and I think that's fine. He uses his own stuff as examples because he knows his own stuff really well. Really helpful. I've got to work in submission to Analog right now, and I actually use that book. Hopefully, it helps me. And so, Eudora Weltley. I've never read her. I've heard audiobooks of her short stories, and I really love Southern writers, Southern Gothic, and I think she's right up my alley. She's sort of a country style writer, and I haven't read this. I got this from, I think, Thrift Books, really cheap. It's a used book, but it's Library of America. It's a collection of her best stuff, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've enjoyed the few audiobooks of her that I've read, that I've heard rather. Oh, here's a tough one. This really slowed me down this year. Slowed me down. I took about a month to read this. Really slow. Gravity's Rainbow. Thomas Pynchon, probably considered one of the greatest living writers alive. I think he's still alive. He's a recluse. You never see this guy. He's never done an interview. He's got more people have done their graduate work in English on him, but never shows up at a university to give a talk. I'm not going to review this book right now. That would take a lot of time, but I am going to make a video on this eventually. I think I'm going to start reviewing books in a week or two after I get through a chunk of my library. It's not for everybody. It's postmodernism. It deals with a character named Tyrone Slothrop, who's really paranoid, neurotic about in World War II. It has to do with the V-2 bomb and his interrelationship between him and the bomb. It's really dark. It's funny at times. It has musicals written kind of into it. It's got a lot of references to science and other things. Wasn't so much the scientific references, but a lot of the references to a lot of African cultures, like the hero people. This book helped me. I know some people don't like to use guides. I've read some clunkers that are pretty challenging, like Ulysses without a guide, and some of the stuff I didn't know. So this is the pre-internet days, and so instead of Googling, I used this book by Steven Weisenberger. I don't know if it's the best one, but it certainly did help me. Do you need it? Well, I don't know. Do you know about Southern African culture? Do you know about the intricacies of all the mythologies and operas and German philosophers and chemistry and aerodynamic coefficients? No, if you don't, I think this book's helpful. Certainly some of that stuff you don't need to know to appreciate the book, but it's a hard to grasp book, and I wanted to make it as easy as possible. I can't say if I enjoyed it or not. It's still sinking in 6 months later. I haven't read this, but I'm going to read it. George Eliot's Middlemarch. Back in the day, I was, I guess, what these guys are calling a dude bro. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'll take it as a guy who likes to read macho type stuff. And I was definitely, as a young man, inclined to that. I didn't read a lot of books by women. I read mostly books by, like, white dudes who wrote action stories. That was pretty much it. I'm trying to be a little more worldly with my reading now. I'm trying to read more by female authors. And books with female protagonists, including from the Victorian age. And I just read Madame Bovary and by Gustave Flaubert. And, it was actionless, but it was beautiful, and I enjoyed it. I don't think I would have enjoyed it when I was 18 or 20, so I've changed. Hopefully I have after 30, 40 years. So, this one. This is I read about 3/4 of this, I guess. The Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy by Diana Gabaldon. She's the author of Outlander. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that. I've never read Outlander. If anybody's read it and you're watching, tell me if it's any good. I don't know. This is from the year 2020, best of. I didn't think this was so hot. If this is the best science fiction being written, boy, somebody bring back Asimov and Ray Bradbury and Harlan Ellison and Frank Herbert, because these guys some of it I don't consider it sci-fi. I mean, they have a story in here, I think it's in this compilation, about a woman giving haircuts in a black neighborhood. She's at a barber shop, and she's not supposed to be giving haircuts. She's like Delilah, I guess. I guess we got magic realism here, but like nothing funny happens to the men. They don't get stronger or weaker or nothing. They don't disappear after she gives the haircut. I don't see the magic reality here. You know, giving a good haircut doesn't make you sci-fi. I don't get it. Or fantasy. Maybe it's just, it's too nuanced for me. I just don't understand it. H.P. Lovecraft. I understand this guy though. The complete fiction. Boy, you want to write a weird tale. This man was the master back in the day. Short career. He died around 40-ish from, I think, some sort of stomach or intestinal cancer. He let himself die. But I'll tell you, there's a few bombs in here when he tries to write outside of sci-fi, horror, fantasy. He's a clunker. But when he writes in those genres, some of the stories are really strong. The Cthulhu mythos, that's some sort of ersatz mythology that he came up with, and other people have run with since then. August Derleth, other writers. It's strong. Those stories are really good. They're written in a Baroque voice, but it matches the weirdness of the story. The Call of Cthulhu, Mountains of Madness, Whisper in the Darkness, A Shadow Out of Time, The Color from Outer Space. These are some fantastic stories. I mean, you can read them any time of the year, but they're really good, of course, around Halloween. No ghosts or spooks or stuff like that in his horror. No werewolves, no vamps. It's all these odd, they're really not even monstrosities. They're sort of like space gods, but people don't know that. They just think that they're some sort of monster, and they're affected by it. It's often the horror evolves to people not being able to deal with seeing that being or seeing that artifact or coming across some ancient writings from other people who've experienced these beings. It's really good stuff. This is really good too. This is volume 1 of The Absolute Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Look at that beautiful cover art. Very strange. This deals with dream, death, despair, et al. All these D characters. It's really well written. Beautifully drawn. The artwork's just beautiful. And, it's just gorgeous. Anywhere you flip in the book, it's just beautiful. I don't want to ruin it here. But really, really beautiful. I forgot who the artist is, but whoever it is, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to read everything written by Neil Gaiman and everything in the Sandman series. I'm running out of time here. I'll finish up with some more books tomorrow. It's just chugging along here. I probably won't finish my library anytime soon, but just give you a little sample of some of the stuff I have, and I'll plug away at it. I want to start making some videos on some books and stuff, and maybe I'll get some viewers as well. Everybody take care, and I'll see you tomorrow or the next day. So, Wildman Z out.